Start talking.
All right. Well, I'm going to talk.
Okay.
Now?
Yep.
All right.
Who are we talking about this week?
Well, maybe we should. People kind of know who we are.
Do they?
Are we famous?
No.
I don't think we're famous.
Hey, somebody in Germany listened.
That was an accident. It had to be.
Well, I'm Jamie.
Not Mike.
I'm Marissa.
Yeah.
We are the jury dropouts. It always sounded like I said the dreary dropouts.
Jury.
Well, I said jury, but it
Jury?
sounded like
Say
dreary.
jury.
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 Yeah. So yeah, today's discussion. Chance Englebert.
Chance Englebert.
So Chance was a 25-year-old man. He's a Wyoming native.
Born in South Dakota.
Born in South Dakota. So just to make a quick story of I'll just go through the details quick, and then we can go back, and then we'll have a discussion. So Chance is married, and he's married to a Nebraska woman. And in 2019, is that correct?
They were married in 2018.
But 2019 is when they came back to Nebraska to
Yes.
visit.
Yes.
So they come back to Gering, Nebraska, which is where she's from. They're going to visit some family. It's around the 4th of July. And as it goes, on the 6th, Chance goes golfing with her family. And I believe it was Chance's father-in-law. It's unclear on whether it was a brother-in-law or if it was a sister-in-law's boyfriend. And possibly his mother-in-law. So they go on this golf outing. They're having a good time, probably drinking some booze, beer, whatever they drink. And sometime during that golfing outing, they get into a bit of an argument. See, Chance had previously worked in the coal industry, and I don't know if it was like a coal plant or coal mining. I think it might have been a plant. And there was a big layoff. And he'd lost his job. And he'd recently actually gotten a new job working for a propane company. He hadn't started yet, and I believe he was going to start the following week. But there was some sort of an argument. I don't know if somebody made a comment to him about his new job or about his old job or what the case was, but it made him mad. And so he calls his wife and he says, "Come get me." So she comes to the golf course and she picks Chance up. And they head back to her grandparents', which is where they were staying. Also, something that's maybe a little bit unclear, and maybe Marissa can elaborate on this later, that the argument might have continued or there might have been a heated discussion within the vehicle on the way to Grandma's house. But anyways, so they get to Grandma's house. Chance decides he's going to go walk it off. He's going to go cool off, which apparently isn't unusual for Chance. That's kind of how he deals with maybe his stresses or if he's having a tough time. So Chance leaves and he goes on this walk. But he never comes back. And he's never seen again. So, a little bit about Chance.
Yep.
So he's kind of a rodeoer. He was into bareback riding, I believe. I believe he did fairly well when he was in high school. Good enough that he had actually gotten a scholarship at I think it was a community college that had a rodeo program. So he goes to college, he does his rodeo. I don't know how he did in college, if he was successful. But anyways, he also picks up a new hobby, and that's derby cars, which is pretty popular around here, actually.
Yep.
So that's how he met his wife. So he's going to come to Nebraska with another friend. They're going to come pick up a car. And that's when he meets his wife. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I think that ultimately they met online, and then they decided after chatting on via text messaging for a while, then they decided to meet up at this derby race.
sure. And
Or something.
In
like
one
that.
of the interviews, Bailey said that her ex-boyfriend used to be in the rodeo when Chance's little brother was doing rodeo. So she kind of They kind of knew each other.
Yeah, her ex-boyfriend and Chance's brother.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But she was familiar with Chance
Yes.
before they met.
Yeah.
Or before
Yeah.
at least they started dating
Mhm.
anyway. So anyways, they begin dating. And I think sometime, and I don't know if it started while they were dating or if it was after they were married, but there's a bit of tension, I think, between Chance's family and Bailey's family. And Bailey is the wife, in case nobody caught that.
Between Bailey and Chance's mom.
Is that where the tension
Yes.
was? So, and I don't know, did that start while they were dating, did you hear, or was that after they became married? I think it was actually while they were dating, because I think that there was some tension at the wedding.
Yes.
I think the story goes is she felt like he called his mom too much. But then at the same time, when they would get into arguments, Bailey would call his mom and vent about Chance to his mom. And so I think that she was kind of put in the middle of it in a lot of circumstances. But, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's just
I think in an interview,
family
his mom
dynamics.
mentioned that she didn't feel very welcome at the wedding anyway. And I don't even know, was she originally invited?
I believe so.
But anyway, so there was some tension at the wedding. So obviously this started beforehand. And maybe it carried on after, I'm assuming, just a little bit. At
Yes.
least the tension between.
Because the original plan was Chance and his best friend, Matt, were actually supposed to go to South Dakota up to his family's ranch to go hunting and fishing the weekend of the 4th of July. But he and his mom had gotten into it, and Chance told his mom, I'm taking a week off from talking to you. You need to stop meddling in my relationship. So that's when him and Bailey decided to come to Gearing on Sunday the 6th, or Saturday the 6th of July.
So the 6th is when they actually came back. They didn't come back on the
From
4th or the
anything
5th.
I could read and listen to in interviews, it sounds like it was just like they drove up on that Saturday.
So they came down. Of course, there's the golfing
Mm-hmm.
outing. Anybody hear any different on who was on that outing? I know it was just Chance and in-laws. I know the wife obviously was there because she picked him up later on.
Interview from Bailey said it was Bailey's dad and her brother-in-law is what she...
Okay, so it probably was either his sister-in-law's boyfriend or wife. Could have been a boyfriend at the time. Maybe they're married now, so I guess it would be a brother-in-law if Chance was still around. So anyways, they get into this argument. And as far as I know, this is where I think things get weird, is the details are awful. Now, one of the reasons there's probably not a lot of detail is there's an ongoing investigation because Chance to this day has not been found. No body, no Chance, no nothing. And so it's somewhat of an ongoing investigation. So, of course, if law enforcement has a bunch of details, they're probably not spitting too much of those out. Maybe a few, but not a lot. So they have this argument. Of course, we know that his wife picks him up. Did you hear anything about an argument on the way to Grandma's?
She states that they did not have an argument.
I know that
when she showed up to the golf course, she was walking up to him and he told her, turn the F around, we're leaving.
See, and originally, like the story that I had heard is that actually he called, I don't know. He called her, she called him, whatever. They talked, and he was actually in a good mood when they talked on the phone. And so she decided, oh, I'm going to join him. Like, he's in a good mood. They're having a good time. And so she decides to go to the golf course. And when she gets to the golf course, that's when he says, like, in between that time of the phone call and her getting there, that's when things switched. Something was said, and she pulls up, and he's like, nope, turn around, we're leaving. Type of, is that what you heard? Yeah, that's kind of what I heard in the interview. So,
But we know that they obviously left together. Chance is obviously probably still not in a good mood because when they get back to the grandma's house, that's when Chance gets out of the car. I don't know if he hung around the house for any period of time before he went on his walk or if he just jumped out and he started walking. But go ahead.
Yeah, it sounds like I don't know. He must have been in a mindset like he had a one-track mind. He wanted to leave, but she had to go back to grandma's house to go pack her bags. And I mean, that wasn't sitting well with him. And from what she said is that, she went inside to go grab the bags and he decided to just get out of the car and start walking. He's like, I don't want to come here. I want to go home.
So they're in Gering, and for anybody that's unfamiliar with Gering borders kind of two towns. So there's Scottsbluff, and then what's the little town that's like right in between them? Like, matter of fact, I got a map.
Terrytown.
So it's a lot like Omaha and Bellevue and Papillion, to where they're actually all kind of right together. So Gering is just to the south.
And when we say home is in Wyoming where?
Moorcroft.
Moorcroft.
Which is like 4 hours?
Yeah,
it is 4 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he had mentioned that he's walking home, or at least he's going to start walking towards home, back to Wyoming, which is a pretty good job. But we do know that he made some phone calls. And I think he called his friend in South Dakota. What was that friend's name?
Matt Miller.
He wants Matt to come pick him up, but Matt's been drinking. So I'm unclear. I think then Matt said he was going to call somebody else to see if they could pick him up. And was that the aunt or was that mom and dad?
Mom and dad first.
So, but mom and dad, I don't think they were coming, were they?
Right, because, this is where the mom had said, he said he's taking a break. He doesn't really want me meddling. And so she kind of put her hands up and said, well, he's not going to want to hear from me. So I'm kind of staying out of it. But I think she had her husband phone him or try to call him.
And he didn't answer.
And I think, did he have a conversation also with what he considers to be his aunt, but it's actually a family friend, but must be a really close family friend?
She tried and he didn't answer her phone call either.
But she did get an odd text.
Yes.
And I think
later in the night.
Yeah. And I had that text, and it was the text.
There was two of them.
There was two texts. What was the first text?
The first one says "I'm," and then it's got just
like an emoji.
An emoji of the smiley face with just the straight smile.
It was
like not even a smile, just the straight smile.
Yeah, just kind of a straight face.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next text was
just letters.
It's kind of gibberish. And I think it said, did it say I'm something again?
No.
It was IBDESERALLYG.
Yeah.
All lowercase, all together.
So that was the last, I think, anybody heard actually from Chance from his phone. And his phone was pinged actually in Scottsbluff. It was actually at a truck stop. And I kind of looked at the route that he would have taken because he went.
Yeah. So to back up a little bit, he takes off walking and Bailey goes inside to grab her bags. She sees that he takes off walking. So she's like, oh, great. Here we go. So then she grabs the baby out of the back seat, takes the baby back inside to grandma and says, here, watch the baby. Well, she's going to go look for Chance. Well, by that time, he evidently got far enough where she couldn't find him. That's the story. But then as he's walking through town, they caught him on some surveillance video from some businesses to kind of see what route he was taking.
Yeah, I think I heard something about I don't know if it was a Runs or something like that, but then I think they also caught him.
Domino's.
What was it, Domino's?
Mhm.
There was also some surveillance from a convenience store, and there was actually a follow-up investigation later on by a private investigator, and he talked to maybe the person that was working at the convenience store at the time, and they reported to this private investigator that they'd seen him come in. He went back towards the coolers. He was having some sort of a discussion on the phone, not necessarily a yelling conversation, like an argument, but it appeared as though it was possibly heated. And he grabbed something to drink, he grabbed some chew, and then he leaves the convenience store.
Which nobody really knows. I don't think Bailey really divulged how much time she took before she actually went to start looking for him. Like, was it 10 minutes? Was it an hour? Like, she didn't, I don't think she really said. Like, because I find it hard to believe if she really took the baby right into the house and got back in the car, he couldn't have made it but a few blocks away at that point. So
No, and
to me, it's like, okay, I don't think she probably went inside and was like, okay, well, I'm going to let him blow off steam. He'll be back. And then I don't know. I'm speculating, but I can't imagine if she got right back in the car to go look, she wouldn't find him a few blocks away.
No, because this last ping on the phone at the truck stop in Scotts Bluff, I believe, is a couple of miles at least away. I mean, we're not talking a few blocks. We're talking, a mile, 2 miles.
Right.
And we don't know who that discussion was on the phone either, because all we really know is that he called his friend Matt, and we know about the text. I don't know if he had a conversation. Did he have a conversation with his dad? Is that what you said earlier?
He didn't answer any other phone calls.
Oh, that's correct. Sorry about that. But the police never at least released any information about any other
Right.
phone
Because
activity.
did Bailey call him?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know.
So we don't know.
Yes. Well, allegedly. At 7:45, Chance talked to Bailey. He told her that he was walking south, but he had told Matt that he was walking north towards Torrington, Wyoming.
And he may have meant that he was walking north if he told her south. I mean, I don't know. And of course, he's I would assume they would kind of be familiar with the area. I mean, I don't know. And of course, he's got a cell phone. This is 2019, so it's not like your phone doesn't have maps. And actually, in one of the surveillance videos, you can see him outside. He's walking and clearly looking. He stops and he's looking at his phone. Now, whether or not that's a text, a phone call, he's looking at a map, I mean,
Yeah.
nobody knows. But then they later think that they catch him on surveillance at a Walmart, also in Scotts Bluff, possibly heading west, but they can't confirm that that's actually Chance. And I believe they took that video and they sent it to to Quantico FBI to see if they could have the video enhanced, but it ain't CSI. I've seen how that's done. It's not like what you see on TV where you have this fuzzy picture and they bring it in and bring it in and bring it in. They clear it out and it looks like an HD photo. That ain't how it works. But they weren't able to clear that photo up, and they could never confirm whether or not that was Chance or not. The only thing we know now at this point is that is definitely the last sign of Chance. And his wife eventually goes looking for him. And I don't know if she looked for a little bit and then called police, or did they report him that night, or was it the next day?
It was the next
day. Because he still hadn't returned and nobody had heard from him.
Yeah, and
Correct.
a piece of information that we didn't talk about yet is during this night, there was a big storm headed in. So I think that was the worry. I mean, honestly, if it's me and my new husband and we get into a spat, he was typically known for walking it off. I'm going to let him walk it off, and I'm not going to get too worried about him. But I think the fact that there was a major thunderstorm heading in, that kind of enhanced kind of the worry of what's going on and where he's at and why he's not
Sure.
coming back.
And I'd read, I don't know if it was a blog or what it was, but somebody mentioned, well, maybe he succumbed to hypothermia. We're talking July in Nebraska. It's never cold in July in Nebraska. Like cold is probably 85, 90 degrees. That's going to be a cooler day. It's never cool in July. And even if you get a cold rain, I've been out in some cold rain in the summer. Hypothermia was never a concern.
No.
So I would seriously, we don't ultimately know what happened to Chance. So if you were just going to go through the possible scenarios, one, he's not sure where he's walking. Maybe he's had too much to drink. Doesn't appear so in some of the video you see. He looks like he's walking fine anyway. They say maybe he tripped and fell in the river. And of course, there was a storm that night. Maybe the river was up. I don't know I believe it's the Platte River.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what the Platte River is like out there. I know what the Platte River is like in central Nebraska. And if you fell into the water, all you're going to do is get a bloody nose when you hit the sand because there ain't no water in it.
Right.
But
a lot of sandbars.
maybe it's deeper out there. I don't know.
Well, and I don't know how close it was to actually where he was walking.
I think he would have crossed the river.
Okay.
So there was some they thought, he could have fallen in the river. He could have drowned. He could have tripped and fell, hit his head. He could have been abducted. There's all kinds of rumors, but
we're talking a rural hunting, fishing farm kid,
yeah.
Potentially. I don't know if they farm, but he's an outdoorsman.
Yeah, we're not.
I just don't know. Unless he's had a lot to drink and he falls in and drowns. But I know you could hit your head, whatever. But I don't know. For somebody that's a hunter, fisher type person, they surely have some survival skills.
Well, survival skills when they're walking through a town. We're not talking. So Nebraska, for anybody that's not familiar, and pretty much everybody that listens to this show is probably in this room, but Nebraska's pretty flat. So we're not talking mountainous. There's probably some rocky areas. Of course, there's the sand hills and the Badlands and whatnot, but we're not talking Colorado Rockies. We're not talking
deep forests.
Yeah. So ain't no bears. Maybe a rattlesnake. Maybe a coyote. Maybe a mountain lion. But doubtful on the mountain lions. They're here. Not that many. This is rural Nebraska. There's basically the only thing that will kill you here is boredom. Yeah. That's it. So I doubt it had anything to do with the elements. That's just what I think. But there's another would you say conspiracy or theory about what may have happened, and that goes back to the problems with the in-laws.
Sure.
So, but the story gets a little more weird because there is some details I think that Marissa found that had to do with the phone.
Yes. So after Matt returns home, because he's only able to stay and search for 3 days because he has to return to Wyoming for the new job. And he has a buddy that had gone to Chance and Bailey's house just to see if he'd showed up there, if he'd finally made it there. And while he was there, there was a cell phone just sitting on the porch. So he calls Matt and he's like, well, he's not here, but there's a cell phone sitting here. Do you know anything about it? And he said, no, I'll call Bailey. So he calls Bailey and asks her if there should be a cell phone sitting on their porch. And she told him no. And Matt said that he was on his way to go pick it up. But before he got there, Bailey had called one of her friends to come and pick it up. So from there, he does not know where the cell phone went.
And we don't necessarily know whose phone it was,
Nope.
correct?
Correct.
To be honest, we don't even know if law enforcement recovered their phone. They're probably not going to tell us. But it does kind of fuel speculation that maybe that was Chance's phone. But we don't know that. So, and everything that we're going to be talking about, this is going to be a lot of allegations.
Oh, yeah.
So
Speculations.
a lot of
And
speculation. So just so everybody's clear, like nobody has ever been arrested. No one's ever been charged. And certainly nobody's ever been convicted of anything to do with Chance's disappearance. So a lot of what we're going to be discussing now is just, it's not going to be from a police report, really. This is going to be what people are talking and saying in the Scotts Bluff area. It's
Yeah.
going to be what family
rumors
members are
and
saying.
speculations.
And there's going to be maybe some things we'll talk about that we've noticed when you're doing research on Chance. And the one thing that I noticed that I thought was odd was the lack of family involvement from her side. At least it appears that way.
Right.
So the only, like, I didn't even know what her maiden name was. And I think that I maybe heard her last name once. I think you mentioned it once, what you thought it might be, but
Yeah, I think I stumbled upon some interview or something, and it mentioned her dad's name, and then I just.
But her
that's the
parents were
only-
divorced.
Yeah.
So was it
It was her
her
dad's
dad
name.
or was it her stepdad?
don't
Good
even know
question.
that.
Yeah.
It was whoever he was golfing with.
So that would have been her stepdad.
But I did find it a little bit, I mean, I thought it was odd. So they were holding a press conference, and I believe this is the following day. I think it was the following day. It could have been 2 days later. I really don't know. But in the press conference is Chance's mom and dad, Bailey, Scott, which would be the father-in-law,
Mm-hmm.
and
One of Chance's younger brothers.
yes, and then briefly, I think his mother-in-law. But what seemed odd is, and this is just odd to me, probably odd to some other people, I think, that Chance's mom is obviously very emotional because they don't know where Chance is at. And his dad seemed a little emotional, but I didn't observe really any emotion out of Bailey, and none out of who I believe to be Scott. I know it's the father-in-law. And I guess people maybe deal with their emotions in their own ways, but I would hope to think if I ever came up missing and my wife didn't do it, that she would be a little emotional that I'm nowhere to be found.
Yeah, and we have to mention too her age, because she's younger. She's 20, I believe, at this point, right?
I don't know anything about Bailey.
Yeah, I do know that she is younger.
Yeah, I think he was 25, she was 20.
That could be.
I think when they first got together, or they first met, she had just turned 18, from what I understand. And then the year later, at 19, that's when they got married. And then 6 months or so, however many months after that, they had this baby.
Yes, they were married in October of 18, and Banks was born May of 19.
19.
So she's there with the baby, and it's just something that even when I was in law enforcement, I know this isn't like stuff that's admissible in court, but you do pick up on people's nonverbal cues
Right.
and how they act. I mean,
Well, it causes speculation, how they're acting, what they're saying, how they look, what's their demeanor. Are they defensive? Are they cooperative? What are some of the things they said? Listening to conversations, all of that stuff goes into play, and it gets people thinking because it's so unknown. There's no known. information other than the surveillance and this little bit we got on the phone calls. And I don't know, we don't even really have a really clear indication of what was actually said at the golf course that upset Chance. I mean, we have a speculation of what was said, or what Bailey supposedly said he told her that was said, but we really don't know the full story. If he was really fully divulgent in what was said to him, I don't know. We don't know.
And maybe the day after, or a couple days after, even a week after, you might not hear a whole bunch out of the in-laws. Now, again, I would kind of hope that you would see, I mean, you're talking about the town that they live in, their area. This isn't like Chance's hometown, and it's certainly not his folks' hometown. It's not his friend's hometown. But basically from the beginning, up until even now, when I look at interviews or I'm reading stuff on Facebook on the Locate or Find Chance page, I can't remember what it's called, but the only thing that you see is you'll see interviews with Matt. You'll see interviews with the mom. I think early on there was maybe a few interviews with Bailey, but you never see, at least I haven't, any of the other family members from the in-law side, which to me just seems strange because you're talking, now I realize it's not your blood relative, but this is your son-in-law and the father of your grandchild. And speaking of the grandchild, how often has Chance's mom got to see the grandchild since Chance's disappearance?
She hasn't.
She hasn't. So that just seems odd to me as well. And so now, allegedly, she hasn't seen him. But this is where I think the speculation comes from. And it certainly makes me wonder if there was any involvement with the in-laws in Chance's disappearance. So it makes you think, did this disagreement carry on after Chance went on his walk? Now this is all going to be speculation because none of this comes from anywhere, but so something else to remember is they never recovered Chance's phone. However, I can only assume that they did subpoena his phone records. And so maybe the father-in-law called him and maybe there was another argument. Maybe they met up. I don't know. But it just seems odd that the family, at least from Bailey's side, seemed to really distance themselves from this thing.
Right. And I had even seen an interview that, when they were forming search parties, there was even some family members that wouldn't allow them to even search on their property.
Yeah, I saw the same thing. So something that's probably important to note is a search that took place afterwards. And I don't know how long the search lasted. I don't know I think it was just maybe a few days, but there was multiple law enforcement agencies, the Nebraska State Patrol, there was helicopters, there was drones.
There were 18 agencies.
18 agencies.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was 100 and some people, or maybe a couple hundred people in this search.
Yes.
Now, did it say how long the search lasted?
No, but so I know that she reported him on Sunday, but she claimed that law enforcement did not take it serious to begin with.
Yeah. And I got to be honest, when you're a missing adult, law enforcement tends to maybe not. Now,
and especially if it's a newlywed couple and they got into an argument, and yeah, I can see that. Yeah. He didn't come home the next day. She's worried, and yeah, they're going to be like, "Oh, honey, just wait it out. Let him blow off his steam. He'll be back." I can totally see that.
I can see it. I'm not going to defend law enforcement though. mean, because I was in law enforcement, and this is kind of how, sorry, this is kind of how I was. And I can't remember if it was another law enforcement officer that told me this, and it made sense. Because a lot of times you would go and you would start to investigate something that to you, the law enforcement officer, it just didn't seem very important. So it could be a missing adult. It could be, hey, somebody stole my book bag. It could be something that to you seemed petty. But what this other law enforcement officer told me once, and it really stuck with me, is you can't go into these things judging how important it is to you. If they called you, then it's important to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to treat it as such. So from that day forward, when I was in law enforcement, it could be a petty call, and it could have been this call. And as soon as I got the call and someone said, hey, my husband, boyfriend, friend, whoever, took off walking and I haven't seen him since, and it's not unusual they go on a walk, but they've never been gone this long, then the search starts now. And even if they're found later on, they went to a friend's, they skipped town, whatever the case may be, then so be it. But nothing makes you feel more foolish than if you blow it off, decide maybe a day, 2 days later, okay, maybe this is maybe a little more serious, and now that person's never heard from again, and you've wasted a ton of time.
Well, you have to think, because if the family or Bailey or whoever, they're doing all they can to find him on their own. So they're probably calling their phone tree, or they're probably trying to get a hold of everybody that they know of to figure out where he would have gone. I probably would have called any local hotels. I would have probably called, I don't know, thinking of the situation and what I would do. That's probably what I would have done. I mean, definitely calling all the friends and saying, hey, did you pick him up? He was going to walk. Did somebody pick him up? Trying to just call everybody I could. So you got to believe at this point that she's done all this and then decides to go to the police.
And that could be.
Well, and she stated that she called Verizon before she contacted law enforcement to see if they could tell her where his cell phone was last seen. And they said, we can't help you with that. So then she went to the PD.
So there were some other details that I heard that I thought were interesting. And one was that there were initially some suspects and maybe some people brought in for questioning and some polygraphs. And it's my understanding that they failed the polygraph. The only problem with the polygraph is they are not admissible in court. See, they cannot be used as evidence. All you can do with the polygraph is basically or you can suspect, okay, maybe whatever I'm hearing out of this person is a bunch of bullshit.
So who took the polygraph?
I don't know. But there was also...
They never released the names.
There was a couple individuals from that area that may have been associates of the family. I don't know if they were friends of the family. I don't know what the connection may have been. And once again, this isn't from any sort of a police report. Once again, speculation. Probably something I picked up on a blog. But there was a couple of individuals that have some criminal history. And one of those individuals talked to somebody else, and I don't know if this was in a bar or where the conversation took place, but he said, actually, me and another individual roughed him up. And the plan was to rough him up, beat him up a little bit over whatever happened earlier in the day with this golf argument. But they went a little far and they accidentally killed him. They didn't say, of course, where the body was, and they weren't telling this to law enforcement. This is just what somebody else had reported. And I'm almost sure now that I read it on a blog, so it could be complete and total bullshit.
Right.
But
small town gossip type stuff. Yeah.
And, we live in a small town. We kind of know how that goes. So once again, this is all speculation. But right from what leads to this is what people see. So they're not seeing a lot out of the in-laws. They're probably not hearing much out of Bailey. They're probably seeing Bailey and how she reacts. And of course, they become suspicious because why is she not a mess like maybe a normal wife might be? That's what they expect to see. And when they don't see it, they become suspicious. And the rumors start to swirl. I think I read that, of course, most of what I'm saying now comes from blogs. So I really don't lean heavily on this information, but that the father-in-law was maybe do I want to say respected? Maybe not respected, but pretty well known in that area. And so law enforcement maybe wouldn't look into him like they might somebody with a criminal history, because there was rumor that all of a sudden this concrete got poured behind his house or a driveway or a building or something to that effect. And people were saying, well, maybe he's under the concrete. And law enforcement came out and said, no, we've already checked that. Whether they did, I don't know.
Yeah. And something that brought suspicion onto kind of the family is, right away, I don't know, a couple days later, I think Bailey was asking about his death, how to get the death certificate.
Sure.
On Tuesday.
And so, that raised a lot of eyebrows and saying, why is she already asking about a death certificate? Which, we're all thinking, insurance money. However, you have to think also, I'm sure somebody was talking to her about it. Now she's got this new baby. Supposedly they just bought a new house together. How is she going to afford all of this? And so I'm sure her wheels are turning and thinking, and she's spinning and thinking, how am I going to survive if he doesn't come back?
I have heard that that's probably not too all uncommon. I mean, right.
Because the only way that she can get any money is to declare him dead. Any
benefits whatsoever. Yeah. And then I don't know how you get that ball rolling, but let's say, of course he was never found, but if they did find him deceased, how long is that process? Because she's going to have bills to pay.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have to do stuff with the house. They're going to have to do stuff with the vehicles, insurance, whatever the case may be. So
right.
That's
and
one of those.
I don't necessarily, I mean, I know it brought a lot of suspicion on her, but I'm thinking about it too, is what would I do? Well, I know it's only been a few days, but then in the back of my mind, I've got a 3-month-old baby.
And
and who knows if she's working? I don't know. And he's got to pick up, and they got this new house together. And I mean, I would be worried.
Something that makes all these cases suspicious isn't the fact that there's one weird detail. It's always a culmination of several things.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, it has to do with the fact that there was some tension possibly between the two families. There was an argument on a golf course. There was the fact that he disappeared pretty much right after the argument. There's the whole deal with the phone. Whether or not that's true or not, I don't know. But there's the fact that just how they acted. You see a lack of emotion from her side of the family, and all the emotion seems to come from theirs. When you're talking about interviews, all of the interviews are coming from his side, not necessarily from her side.
And I don't know how soon after, but her family lawyered up because Captain Rogers called Dawn to make sure that she hadn't contacted an attorney. And Dawn said, I didn't know that I was supposed to. And he said, well, you don't, but Bailey and her family have. And she was confused as to why they had contacted an attorney. And she was concerned that since she's not considered his next of kin, that Captain Rogers wouldn't be able to tell her anything. And he said, well, that's why I need to verify. Do you have an attorney representing you? And she said, no.
Was this an investigating officer?
I just have Captain Rogers.
I'm assuming so. I'm assuming it's a captain with the Gering
Probably
Police
Gary
Department.
Police Department.
Yeah, the only time I would, once again, this is just based on what I would do. This isn't the same for everybody, but just because I'm familiar with the whole law enforcement thing, you always talk to the family first. And sometimes, and in this case, maybe they were treated a little bit like suspects because of the argument. However, I don't know that I would lawyer up unless I was just outright being told that I was a suspect and the major focus was on me. Then I might. However, if I didn't do anything, I really don't have too much to hide. But I will tell you that when I conducted investigations, if somebody were to ask me, a civilian, should I obtain an attorney? And most of the time my answer is probably. And the reason is because if I'm bringing somebody in for questioning and I ask them if they want an attorney and they say no, it's not that most people aren't, I don't want to say dumb.
Well, not savvy about the whole process.
No, they're not familiar with it. They don't, everybody does have rights. You do have the right to remain silent. You don't have to speak to law enforcement if you don't want to. If you are placed under arrest, you do have the right to counsel, and if you can't afford it, of course, it'd be provided to you free of charge.
I think the reason that was explained of why they got attorneys was to expedite the investigation, because they felt like things weren't really moving along and they weren't really getting anywhere. And so that's what was said, is that they wanted to really push things along and put basically a fire under the
Sure, and that could
Gering
be too.
Police under their feet to get things moving. And so they thought that getting attorneys would speed things up. And in hindsight, that's what that Captain Rogers said, is no, actually it's going to slow things down. So
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this case. Am I suspicious? Absolutely.
mm-hmm.
Am I convinced it's foul play? Not 100%. Because, and the reason I say that is because I don't know what the river's like out there. If someone were to fall into the river, and let's say the waters were up because of a storm, you can float quite a ways. And even if they'd started that search right away and there's a thunderstorm going on, I guarantee you they're not putting a helicopter in the air. That's going to wait. Same with drones. You can't fly a drone in a thunderstorm. It would be pointless. You're not going to see anything, and it's not going to maneuver anyhow. So, and you can travel a long ways down a river. You can get snagged underwater. I've been involved with water searches in a pond on somebody that drowned, and it took us days. And as a matter of fact, the only way we found that, and this is a small pond, we're talking a little sand pit, and we had a dive team come in. They found nothing. And this is the first time I worked with dogs that could go over top of water and find bodies from a boat. You ever seen that done?
Wow.
Yeah, these people come out of, and I believe it was Texas. These same dogs were actually either the same dogs or the same company that looked for remains after which space shuttle was it? It was one of the more recent space shuttles that blew up when it was coming into the Earth's atmosphere. But this same company, I don't know if it was the exact same dogs. I was thinking it was the same dogs, though. That went around and found the remains of the astronauts were the ones that were out in this boat. And it was weird because there was two dogs, and I can't remember if there's one or two handlers. Might have been two. Went out in this boat, and they would just kind of take this boat back and forth over the water. And when the dog indicated, all of a sudden the dog would look straight down off the edge of that boat, straight into the water.
Huh. That'd
And
be
that's how we
interesting.
found him.
Wow.
He was hung up in tree branches right in the area where these dogs were looking down. And the reason the divers were having such a hard time is because he was in these branches and he was suspended. So he wasn't at the bottom and he wasn't at the top. He was in a branch in the middle. And of course, murky waters. But anyways, in a river, it would be different.
Which, who knows, if he's following the river because that's the path he knows. I mean, there's just so many speculations as to what could happen. I mean, it could have been torrential rain and he could have slipped in the mud and fell in. Who knows?
Who knows? The only thing that makes it a little hard for me to believe, and the reason that's one of my least
theories.
Is, he's from, an area that's much like where he was at. Probably, actually, it was probably more dangerous where he's from. So far as how the landscape is pretty flat here, but it's not like he's never been around a river before. And I'm not saying a person can't fall into a river and their experience and they can't drown, but we're talking a guy that's probably walking on a road that goes over a river. He would have no reason to say, well, I got to cross the river here. Better walk across it.
Yeah. The other thought or theory is there was train tracks too also. Did they go along the highway or follow along the river that potentially he hopped the train or he did something like that? I don't know. There's just a lot of speculation of.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because we really don't even know for sure what direction he went.
No.
Ultimately.
Not really. Not after the last ping on the phone.
Mm-mm.
So I guess that's what makes it a mystery. What makes it, I guess, interesting enough to talk about is he just vanished. And they still have nothing. They have no trace. They have no clothing. They have no cell phone. They have no nothing. Like, not a single trace that we're aware of.
It just makes you think that, yes, I know there were search parties out, but, the potential to get missed. I mean, it makes you wonder. I mean, maybe who knows? Maybe he hid in
Sure.
under somewhere to get shelter and something happened. You just don't know. And maybe he's stuck in a little, I don't know.
And that could be, because if anybody that's ever gone hiking, if you go out to a wildlife refuge and you just walk around, there's so many places to hide. Now, I know that they supposedly brought out search dogs. I'm not super experienced with search and rescue dogs. I should have asked somebody. But after a torrential rain, if that's what they experienced, does that washing? And we're not talking about an immediate track either. We're talking a track that probably took place a day, 2 days later.
Yeah.
And good luck with that.
Yeah. I mean, you think about nature and we say that there's no bears, no whatever, but who knows? You never know. Maybe he snuck in somewhere to get some shelter from the rain. He's in this burrow, in this little, I don't know, call it a cave or a cavern, but who knows? Just somewhere where it's under a little bit of a shelf. Maybe there was a rattlesnake. You never know.
You never know. You never know.
Weirder things have happened.
Any final input?
What's your
none.
What's your theory? What do you think?
I don't have a theory.
She has a theory. She just doesn't want to talk. No theory?
No theory.
No thoughts?
I just don't know where he's at.
None of us do.
Just.
Well, hey.
Odd.
What are we going to talk about next time?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
More missing persons cases, more
I'm game to talk about anything. I just like mystery.
I do too. It's kind of my jam.
Maybe it'll be a treasure hunt.
Start the treasure hunt.
Oh yeah, maybe.
All right, well. I guess we'll catch you folks next time.
See you later.
Later. Marissa?
Bye.